BC Crew, what's up? What's good? It's your girl Jasmine back on LB on the channel. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. So today we about to watch a video on the mistake that truly hurt the Golden State Warriors dynasty. If you a basketball fan like myself, you was terrified of how I want to say this. You was terrified of the Golden State Warriors because you knew they was about to come that team that was going to win. Right? If you was not a Golden State Warrior fan, I'm not talking about when Curry got on there. I'm talking about in Monte Ellis, Davis days, Burn Davis days, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes days, right? If you was a Golden State Warriors fan, then you was praying for a team like this, right? 2015 came around. You was probably like, oh my God. This team is going to remind you of the Spurs when they had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Ginobili, Robert Horry, all the above. Or the Lakers when they three-peated. It reminds you of teams like that where you start to dislike them because it's like, all right now, you're doing a little too much. So let's go ahead and see what the mistake is that truly hurt their dynasty. Let's go ahead and get into it. Hope you guys will enjoy this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and push the notification bell. That being said, let's get it.
Golden State Warriors erupted on the NBA scene with a revolutionary style of basketball that changed the game as we know it forever. The transcendent style of play led by Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry was not only a game changer, but was so dominant that it led to a level of success that, quite frankly, I don't believe I will ever see again in my lifetime. 6 trips to the NBA Finals, 5 of which were consecutive, winning 4 championships, and within an 8-year span when Curry, Klay, and Dre were all healthy and available, not only did the Warriors have a win percentage that was north of 76% in the regular season, peaking in 2016 when they iconically won 73 games.
That was crazy.
Frame, they only lost 1 series in the playoffs. Now fast forward to where we are today, and the Warriors are far removed from their heyday. As I record this video, Golden State has a record of 18-22, an offense that is slightly above average, with a defense hovering bottom 5 territory. And what makes all of that even more intriguing is that in many of these games, the Warriors are actually competitive. Heck, some of the games they actually have significant leads, and they still end up finding ways on how to lose. As the Warriors have accrued 4 losses because they blew 18-point leads. What's worse is that the Warriors' biggest struggles are things that they can control, such as turning over.
I ain't gonna hold you. This is my first time ever seeing Curry so frustrated with his team that it's kind of interesting to see. You know what I'm saying? I'm never rooting on nobody's downfall, but it's interesting to see because you've never seen Curry for real frustrated before, right? Because he's never, I feel like he's never really had, maybe in the very beginning when he first got drafted, but he hasn't really had like a team like this before, right? Where he's so frustrated. But come on.
The ball 15 times a game, or fouling at a rate that sends their opponent to the free throw line 25 times. But what is possibly the biggest concern for Golden State is the problems that we see with their core 3. Klay Thompson has been the definition of inconsistency.
Injured.
Draymond, when available, is actually having a resurgence offensively while still being one of the best defensive players in the NBA. But when available is the key phrase in that statement, because unfortunately, due to Dre not being able to keep his hands to himself, he's only been available for 16 games so far this season.
What's really going on with Dre? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's really going on? Let me know. Like, what really is it with Dre? That's the part I can't put my finger on. It's like, why are you behaving? Like, why are you doing this? You know, like, I just don't get it.
And then we have Steph, who for the most part still looks really, really good. But of course, Curry is human. So at the age of 35 with the increased workload, we can already start to see how the burden can be too much for him.
Yeah.
Sprinkling frustrations from Kuminga and Moody with their inconsistent minutes and role on a game-to-game basis, injuries from Chris Paul and Gary Payton, and a mysterious decline from Andrew Wiggins. These are all signs that will lead anyone to believe that this team really isn't that good. But also, and what's possibly even more frightening, is that these are the preliminary stages of one of the most dominant dynasties coming to a close. You can easily see not only how underwhelming this year will be for the Golden State Warriors, but more importantly, instead of an organization adding a few more years to the run, instead what the Warriors have provided us is a front row seat to a dying dynasty. So how exactly did we get here? Well, first, let's just look at the roster and acknowledge that this is easily one of the least talented teams the Warriors have rolled out in years. Which is crazy to believe because in the beginning of the dynasty, the Warriors had one of the most complete rosters in the NBA. Now, to be fair to the Warriors in the front office, there's been a lot of things that have been completely out of their control, such as injuries, retirement, and players just miraculously looking significantly worse from one year to the next, such as Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins. So far this season, it's
Andrew Wiggins, I have no idea what happened with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no idea. Klay, I think his injuries is what happened. And I don't think they ever, like Draymond with the whole Jordan Poole situation, that took a big spill. I feel like they should have never got CP3 either. I feel like that was just weird. I understand they wanted him to run point so Curry can be a little bit more free on the court, but I don't know.
two wing players have been completely underwhelming, with Klay Thompson arguably having the worst season of his career since his rookie campaign, as he averages only 17 points, with shooting splits across the board that are near career lows, in particular, shooting only 38.6% with the long ball, which is really close to the lowest mark of the iconic sharpshooter's career. Now compare this to what we just witnessed from Klay Thompson last season, and we can see a noticeable difference in production across the board.
Oh,
now,
yeah,
to be fair
for
to
sure.
Klay, we can easily point to the injury that he sustained a few years back as career-altering, and this unfortunately just has to be the new version of Klay that we have to accept moving forward throughout his career. But when it comes to Andrew Wiggins, honestly, I don't know where the turning point is. The 28-year-old who should be comfortably living in his prime is undeniably having the worst season of his career, being held to 12 points per game, shooting 42% from the field, sub 30% with the long ball, while also only shooting 68% from the charity stripe. Marriage that with a sharp decline defensively, and we find ourselves talking about a player who just 2 years ago was arguably the second best player on a championship caliber team, now is virtually unplayable. And the numbers back this up as well. When Wiggins is on the floor, the Warriors have a net rating of minus 9.1. However, when he's off the floor, the Warriors have a net rating of 5.5. And for those who are confused about on-off numbers and net ratings, this essentially means when Wiggins is on the floor, the Warriors are losing by 9 points, but when he's off the floor, they're winning those minutes by 5 to 6 points, which is pretty staggering to say the least. So having Klay and Wiggins play at this level was certainly not expected. But even with that being the reality, easily the biggest contributing factor to the sharp regression of talent on this team has to be Draymond Green. Now, on a micro level, so far this season, Draymond having these mental lapses of him being an MMA fighter and striking people across the face.
Not
has led him to
MMA
be
fighter.
suspended. And within those games that he missed after hitting Yusuf Nurkic, the Warriors were abysmal defensively, as the Golden State Warriors defensive rating nearly ballooned to 124, making them only second to the Detroit Pistons for the worst defense in the NBA within that 16-game stretch. Now let's pause for a second and really digest what I just told you. When Draymond Green was not available to play, the Golden State Warriors defense was so bad that it was comparable to a team that was on a historic losing streak. Let that settle in. Not only does that show you how valuable Draymond is, but also it does give you another perspective on how bad the talent is on this roster, because the Warriors have...
He said how bad the talent is. It's really like they got rid of a lot of their good pieces, like bench pieces. Like they got rid of a lot of people. I didn't know Gary Payton was hurt. I was wondering what he was doing. I didn't know he was hurt. And it's just not looking good for the Warriors.
Never been that dependent on Draymond's excellence on the defensive side of the floor. But on a macro level, the Golden State Warriors abruptly losing Kevin Durant and Jordan Poole is something that they have just not been able to recover from. And as we all know, Draymond Green played a heavy hand in those two no longer being
sure
together.
did.
As KD has been on record stating that the tension between him and Green played a role in him deciding to go to Brooklyn. And of course, we all saw the punch heard around the NBA world when Draymond laid hands on his own teammate in Jordan Poole. The result of those two not being on the team, as well as the Warriors not being able to find adequate offensive replacements, essentially meant that Steph Curry had to pick up a larger offensive load. And that load became even bigger with the regression of Clay and Wiggins this season. And for the most part, I have to give props to the 35-year-old future Hall of Famer in Curry, because so far this season, I think he's been handling all of that pretty well. But in the past 10 games, I have seen a little bit of shakiness from Curry, as he's only been averaging 22.5 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and shooting sub 40% from the field, below 33% from behind the arc, and it is very clear that his impact on the game just isn't the same. Then from a team perspective, with Curry being the only true shot creator for the Warriors, at times their offense can be very mundane, routine, and heavily jump shot dependent, which has resulted in only 17% of the Warriors' shots this year being within 0 to 3 feet of the basket, which is dead last in the NBA, and it's something that Jordan Poole undeniably would have been able to aid them with his athleticism and ball handling ability. Now, for those who don't believe that this is a real regression from Curry rather than just a shooting slump, I don't mind subscribing to that ideology. However, it still does not address the much bigger picture, and that is, a 35-year-old should not have this amount of offensive responsibility. And the front office in Golden State knew this as well, which is why they were attempting to position themselves for the inevitable. But unfortunately, this is now their new reality due to Draymond burning so many different bridges.
I am a huge advocate of time is money. You guys know I am on the go all the time.
Blown away. I've tried many.
Now, of course, when a roster is...
Of course, it's hard to blame one person for these problems, but it is true. Draymond did cause the beef with KD for KD to leave, right? And just imagine if KD would have stayed. I feel like he would have stayed maybe 1 or 2 more years, depending on the money situation, right? And the same thing with Poole. I know for a fact Poole wanted to stay. If that didn't get leaked, the video, maybe they could have fixed it, but I doubt it. It seemed like 2 hotheads, it wasn't going to work anyway. And plus, Poole, he wanted his money as well, which was very deserving. It's just very disappointing how he's playing in Washington, though. But then again, it's the Wizards, so I feel like he just don't care. But I hate to say, Draymond is the cause of that, but from the outside looking in, that's what it appeals to be. And yeah,
is lacking some talent, the immediate answer would be trades. But unfortunately for the Golden State Warriors, it's much more complicated than that because they are in financial hell.
That's what I thought.
This is a roster that really isn't that talented, and yet the Warriors have spent north of $208 million for this roster, giving them the highest payroll in the NBA. And the contract situation for some of these players makes things even more convoluted. Andrew Wiggins, who is playing the worst basketball of his career, is in year 1 of his 4-year, $109 million contract.
Good Lord.
So of course, no one in their right mind would want.
See what I'm saying? Why would you want to pay Andrew Wiggins? No disrespect. Why would you want to pay Andrew Wiggins $109 million, bro? He is not worth, again, no disrespect, $109 million. Are you serious? Get out of here.
Want to pay Wiggins $25 to $30 million for the next 3 to 4 years if he's playing this poorly.
Exactly.
Chris Paul, who's roughly making $30 million this year, would be a really good option, especially because on the following season, his contract is not fully guaranteed, which means that a potential suitor would more than likely view him as cap relief in the upcoming year. But unfortunately, A, he's
always
B,
hurt.
He's not playing good enough for a team to receive him just because he's cap relief, meaning that the Warriors will more than likely have to pair him with more assets to make the trade a bit more appealing for the potential suitor. And C, and more importantly, because he's making so much money, whoever the player the Warriors receive in return, Golden State would have to be comfortable paying them the amount of money that they are owed in the next upcoming years. And then we have the elephant in the room, and that is Klay Thompson and his contract situation. As Thompson is on an expiring contract making $43 million this year, and he still has not signed a contract extension, which now puts the organization in a very tough decision. If they decide to move on from Klay, they would effectively be making the first step to dismantling the dynasty. But if they decide to keep him and give him a contract extension in the offseason, that basically financially handcuffs the Golden State Warriors to the roster as is. So if the Warriors ignore the elephant in the room, which is Klay Thompson's contract extension, and they also don't want to trade for a big name with a big contract because of the financial implications that come behind that, then they're really only left with one other option, which is pair Chris Paul with some of the younger players in Jonathan Kuminga and or Moses Moody and go after complementary role players who are on manageable contracts. However, If the Golden State Warriors decide to trade their young players for role players, then it will reveal the biggest mistake that they've ever made, which was drafting them in the first place.
Dang.
See, a lot of things that I talked about in today's video are problems that many people have tried to highlight in the community about the Warriors. And though these problems are valid, quite frankly, they were not only expected, but also very manageable. Losing Kevin Durant, Jordan Poole to the Golden State Warriors was very hard-hitting, but the Warriors have already proven that they can win without KD before and after he was on the roster. And though Jordan Poole was a pivotal piece to the 2022 championship run, you could clearly see that he's not going to be able to live up to the expectations of that max contract the Warriors gave him. The sharp regression of Klay Thompson was seen a mile away once he sustained career-altering injuries, and if we are potentially seeing a slow decline from Steph Curry, well, duh, he's 35 years old. The only thing that's really taking anybody by surprise is Andrew Wiggins, because honestly, I have no idea what's wrong with him. But outside of the Wiggins conundrum, everything that's happening in Golden State right now was expected and manageable. And the front office even had all the tools to their disposal to avoid this mess entirely, and they made the wrong decision. After the finals loss in 2019, the Golden State Warriors saw a lot of changes to their roster. Kevin Durant left, Klay Thompson missed 2 seasons due to injuries, even Steph Curry practically missed an entire year himself as well. And when the Warriors were missing that much talent, they did a lot of losing, but also did a lot of asset managing at the same time. And within a short window of time, the Warriors accumulated 4 first-rounders, 3 of which were lottery selections, and 1 of them was a second overall pick. And with that much draft capital, the front office had a decision to make. Do we A, trade these draft picks for solidified veteran talent that can maximize every single year that we have left of our core 3? Or B, do we attempt to extend our window of success by drafting young players, allowing them to mature and grow under the tutelage of Curry, Klay, and Dre? And when it's time for those 3 to step away, Golden State can gracefully move into a new era of Warriors basketball. And
I mean, I get it. You kind of take that gamble with your teams, and it's 50-50 either way. I know the rest of this video is just summing it up. So we ain't gonna have to finish that. But y'all have to let me know down below if you agree or disagree with what the video is saying about the mistake that hurt the Golden State Warriors dynasty. If things would have worked out differently, how many more championships do you think they would have won? Where do you think they would be at right now? But I would love to hear your opinions down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know any other videos you'd like to see me do. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and push the notification bell. With that being said, see you guys next video.